1 Corinthians 12, verses 15 through 31. Right now we will start reading in 15 and we'll go through verse 19. If the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where would be the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where would be the smelling? But now God has set the members, each one of them, in the body just as He pleased. You need to highlight verse 18 or underline it. But now God has set the members, each one of them, in the body just as He has pleased. Take a look at your neighbor and say, God put them in this place with me. So what does that say to you then? What does that say to you then about that person? She says, they're as worthy as I am. You say what?
They're part of the body.
They're part of the body?
They're part of each other.
Part of each other? God thinks they're worthy.
Yes.
It's one of these things that the traditional teaching of an unworthiness, in my opinion, destroys the understanding of Christians that in God's eyes, once we are redeemed, we are worthy. In God's eyes, we are worthy. That's why I don't care for this constant belittling of, well, you know, how people want to stand up and say, I know I'm not anything. And this constant thing about, I can't do it, it's got to be God. See, the problem with that is, while it is true that nothing good can come from me of my own will, that it has to come from the Lord, 1 Corinthians has said that I am the temple of Jesus Christ. Hello? And not only am I the temple, but so are you. Now, for Him to reside in me as the temple, for Him to reside in you as the temple, I don't think I'm any longer unworthy. Because the unworthy spirit has stopped men and women from serving God for 2,000 years. There are two elements about the body that I want you to know. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll finish reading 19 and 20. If they were all one member, where would the body be? But now indeed there are many members, yet one body. Paul is dealing with the idea of being needed and needing somebody. There are two elements of church relationship that cause division among the members. And it's this: being needed and needing somebody. Everybody in the church needs to understand this. You need somebody. And if you subscribe to the philosophy that you don't need anybody, you're already stepping outside of God's plan. Because you need somebody. I need somebody. On the other hand, somebody needs you. That's one of the things that I've always struggled with people who don't feel a need to commit to the body, and they come when they want to and don't come when they want to. There's somebody in that church that's losing because they will not give of themselves to that one that needs them. For the truth is, the body of Jesus Christ is like this. It is not like this. It is not individual people. It is people. What did verse 18 say? Put verse 18 back up there again, brother. But now God has set the members. Who? And it's not just a big picture concept. It says each one of them. So God's not looking at this as Fayetteville Church of God only. God is looking at this as every individual in this body of believers, as it relates to the body and as the body relates to them. God has set the members. It's a strange thing. You'll have people come in and out of the church who will leave because maybe we're not the social strata that they were looking for when they came to church. There's a lot of people who go to church think the reason they need to go to a church is that's where their business contacts are. I worked for a guy back in the 90s who was a member of the church in our town. The church. The First Baptist Church of that town. Now, the people who went to that church were well-heeled, large bank accounts, and socially connected. There were, in that city alone, over 450 churches. Well, they got a new pastor there at the First Baptist Church, and this guy was unhappy. And he comes into my office one day and he says, I don't know what we're going to do. I just don't want to go back to church there anymore. And I said, why? Well, it turned out the preacher was far more conservative than they were accustomed to. The preacher was preaching some Bible. They weren't accustomed to this. So I said, have you thought about this church? Well, I can't go to any other church. I've got business contacts there. I can't leave. And that's not at all why God has set us here. You may be on an intellectual level with the smartest people on earth, but for some reason God has set you with me. So you're not getting that. I went too fast. We don't pick and choose who God associates us with. He has put us together because He sees the picture and realizes that He puts us with people we need and who need us. It's critical to understand. There are two elements in relationship that if the church could ever get it right, the devil wouldn't have a chance. And it's this: I need you and you need me. And to deny that gives the devil his power in the body. To deny your value gives the devil power in the body. To deny someone else's value gives the devil power in the body. And listen. People are at different stages in their walk with Jesus. You cannot look at these people solely on where they are today. You have got to be able to look at them where God wants them to get to. That's why the letter of the law kills and the Spirit gives life. It's strange. Most churches want people saved before they get there. They really do. Send us to lost, but send us to cleaned up lost. Send us to sanctified lost. Send us to ones that's already got their act together. They already know what the Bible says, and we don't have to teach them anything. And we don't have to unteach them anything. We don't have to put up with anything. And we don't have to endure anything. Send us the good ones. You all know that what I'm saying is the truth. Mark Rutland was preaching in our church one time, and he said, y'all need to quit praying for God to send you to lost, because if He did, you would leave. That's because in prior generations, we were used to people coming to church that already knew the stories. You didn't have to teach the kids about Jonah and explain who Jonah was, or about Noah. They already knew it. Now, maybe they hadn't been to church for a while, but they already knew the basics. You didn't have to say, this is the Bible. Hello? But in today's world, you're dealing with plain old sinners. They're not gift wrapped. They're not painted up. They're just plain old, knock it out, go for the devil's sinners. And you got to take them from birth to adulthood. But you know what? You need them. Because if you didn't, God wouldn't ever brought them. He would never have brought them to us if we didn't need them as much as they need us. That's why I've changed dramatically in the last 26 years of ministry. When I first started, like most people with a more elementary relationship with God, it was either up or down, right or left, on or off. And I wouldn't talk with you about it. You know why? Because that's easy. If this sister comes to me and she's got mess in her life, I've got two ways to deal with it. One, just to slam her in the head with a letter, or two, invest my heart into her life and help her find a way out.
Yes. Yes.
Now, ministry says to me that I've got to bury myself up into this individual. I mean, if all I'm going to do is just spout Bible verses, you don't need me for that. My computer has an excellent pronunciation of Bible verses. Even the words I don't know how to pronounce, I hit the right button and it tells me how. So if all you want is somebody to eloquently say Bible verses, then you don't need a person. Just get the computer. But these people coming in here, yeah, they need the Word. But they need the Word as it is in us, invested into their lives. And if we do that, then hopefully we won't be dealing with the type of people I'm getting ready to talk to you about. The first problem here is a problem of inadequacy. There are people within the Bible who feel inadequate because in their own eyes they do not believe that their gifts are comparable to others and therefore of no value. And another way to understand this is everybody thinks singing is the deal. Everybody thinks if you can sing at church, you have hit the pinnacle of ministry. Why, you know they do. Lord, when we went to First Assembly of God in Winston-Salem, had about 5,000 members. The people who sang there were recording artists. So your little old us is sitting out there on a pew thinking, well, gosh, all I know how to do is clean toilets. I can't ever be as good as she is, he is. You know, all I know how to do is park a car. All I know how to do is carry the Bible for the visiting evangelist. All I know how to do is help somebody find their seed. Do you realize there's a lot of people in God's house that don't serve because they have that spirit? They have a spirit of inadequacy because maybe no one intentionally did it, but as they view everything from a carnal perspective, I can never be as important as he is. Therefore, I'll just slip back into being anonymous. That's why most people go to big churches. Most people go to big churches because they can be anonymous. Never have to commit and never have to serve. And they lose the joy of relationship with the living God. For there is no joy that can be experienced like that of investing yourself in ministry and watching somebody's life change. When she called me today, and that's a simple thing. I've prayed prayers before and seen miracles happen right before my eyes. But when she called me today and she repeated the words of my prayer and said the doctor said the same thing to her, that's when I thought I'd done some ministry. That's when I thought I had done some ministry. One individual, not the great ministry horizon, one individual. God is showing me more and more and more true ministry is about the one. Jesus ministered to one. Hello? He always dealt with one. He prayed for that one. He put mud on that one's eyes. You understand what I'm saying? When we start dealing with the one, then we won't have a spirit of inadequacy in his church. When we start acting like, man, what's that old John Anderson song? I'm just an old chunk of coal, but I'm going to be a diamond someday. When we can start figuring out that the chunks of coal got the ability to become a wonderful, rare diamond, if we can think in those terms, I know it's a cliche, but if we can think in those terms, then maybe we can help them actually become that. Because they cannot become it until we convince them that they are worthy. So therefore, cleaning the toilet has to be as important as singing. It has to be. Every job we do has to be equal in its value. We cannot say this is great and that's pretty good. If someone's serving God, I believe I've got to say that's great. Amen. I think that's ultimately where it is. If somebody is serving my God, actually taking part of their leisure time and applying their lives towards the service of my God, I think I got to say that's great. That almost sounds Levitical, doesn't it? That almost sounds like a fulfillment of Revelation when it says, and you are priests and kings unto the Lord. How many of you know the priest ministers to God? The pastor ministers to the people. The priest ministers to God. To minister to God is a great thing. However, we may view the particular emphasis of ministry. It's a great thing.